Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, The Novel Nana. I'm Bex. Today we're going to be talking about opening lines. The best opening lines make a reader curious. They make them want to read that second line, and then the third, and so on and so forth. You want to make an opening line that creates some sort of question or problem or conflict, something that might help distinguish the character that may have an unusual circumstance or maybe an interesting setting or time period. These kind of things, if you set them up correctly, can really hook your reader and keep your reader reading. So I know that most of you have probably heard of opening lines that are like hooks, and that they're basically exactly what they say. They hook you in. So that's the kind of writing when you're thinking of writing, that's the kind of wording that you want to use to make the reader want to keep reading. One of the ones that come to mind when I think of a good opening hook is ones that pose questions, like I said, either indirectly or directly. Neil Gaiman's in American Gods was the name of the book, where it says Shadow had done 3 years in prison. That's the first line of the book. And it is a hook. It does pose a question. It makes you wonder, who is this Shadow? Why did they spend 3 years in prison? And why should I care? So that keeps you reading. There are many famous opening lines, and I'll read you a few so you can kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about. So I do have some books over to the side. These are not as famous as some of the other ones you might have heard of, but we'll take Huckleberry Finn, for instance. The very first line in Huckleberry Finn, let's get the glasses on real fast. You don't know about me without you have read a book by the name of The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. But that ain't no matter. I like that opening line because it tells you right off the bat that he is a character that is not one that you have heard of unless you had read the book. So it makes you think, why wouldn't I have heard of him if I haven't read that book? But anyway, so that's one. And then another that I've chosen is The Almost Moon by Alice Sebold. Okay, let's get these glasses back on. When all is said and done, killing my mother came easily. So if that doesn't make you want to read on, that's another one. These kind of books, they can make a statement. It doesn't have to be a question. They make a statement, and with that statement, it makes you, the reader, question. I'm sorry, I'm seeing the ring light in my glasses, and it's just very distracting. But anywho, You just want to have opening lines that pull your reader in, basically. And a lot of different books, I'm sure you've heard of some of the more famous ones like Sylvia Plath's The Bell Jar. It was a queer, sultry summer, the summer they electrocuted the Rosenbergs, and I didn't know what I was going to do in New York. That's a famous one. Let's see. I've got a few wrote down here on the side, and I'll just give those a go for you real fast. This one is Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. The opening sentence. Everyone my age remembers where they were and what they were doing when they first heard about the contest. So again, it makes you wonder, what was so big about this contest, and what is the contest that everyone would remember what they were doing? Like, it's a very significant event. So that's one way of doing it. Here's another by Lilac Girls, or the book's called Lilac Girls, and it's by Martha Hall Kelly. If I had known that I was about to meet the man who would shatter me like bone china on terracotta, I would have slept in. That's a great opening line. It makes you wonder, how did he shatter her exactly? And, what kind of man was this? So, that's another that's sort of famous. You might have heard of that one before. Let's give you a few more examples here of what makes a good opening line, things that really hook the reader. So we have Octavia Butler's Kindred. I lost an arm on my last trip home. So that one is a very short opening line, very short sentence, but it poses such a big question. Why is this her last trip home? And, how did she lose that arm? So it makes you want to continue reading. That's what you're trying to go for here. A very famous one, The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. It starts out, if you really want to hear about it, the first thing that you'll probably want to know is where I was born and what my lousy childhood was like. Let's see, and how my parents were occupied and all before they had me, and all of that David Copperfield kind of crap, but I don't feel like going into it, if you want to know the truth. Now, that is the kind of opening line that creates kind of an intrigue, because it tells you a lot about the character straight off the bat. It really puts you into his mindset. It gives you a little bit of his character mindset, his attributes, just kind of his point of view on things. So that's a really interesting way to do it. It doesn't always have to be a question. You want to reveal something about your book. George Orwell, 1984. Here's another famous one for you. It was a bright, cold day in April, and the clocks were striking 13. So this is one that has so much. It's so saturated with imagery. To me, it's a really good one, because first you're getting a look at the setting. That's another thing with opening lines. You can choose to focus on the setting, the theme of your book. You can choose to focus on a character, or a certain attribute of your character, or the main theme that runs through the book, or a question, or imagery, or any of those things that you can word or pose in a sentence in the form of like a question. And like I said, it doesn't have to be a direct question. It can be a sentence that makes the reader question something in their mind. So those are the best ones, because you really do want to keep them reading. You don't want to give too much information, just enough to draw them in. Here's another by one of my favorite authors, Stephen King. The man in black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed. That's from the book The Gunslinger. But that one is also a very good one. You get to see like a middle of a conflict. That's another good way to intro your book with the first line, is by giving us a look at the conflict. Let's see. Here's another one. Fahrenheit 451. It was a pleasure to burn. That gives you a hint of the theme of the book, because if you remember, if you've read that, it's by Ray Bradbury. If you read the story like most did in like high school or junior high, that was their job, was to burn books. So to have that as an opening sentence, it was a pleasure to burn, really gives you a good look or a sense of that character and what they're about. Let's see here. I pretty much have gone through the ones that I've written down, but there are so many. If you have any questions about what makes a good opening line that I haven't covered here, I suggest you try Google top 10 best lines or opening lines or opening hooks in novels. You can also, do it for the movies or whatever, but as far as the writing goes, I would suggest, the opening lines in books. So you can kind of get a feel of it. Now, as a reminder here, I won't keep you too long on this video, but just to kind of sum it all up for you, Diane Callahan, she is the Quotidian writer, said that the first line of a story should create a sense of character, conflict, the setting, mood, theme, or style of the book, or any combination thereof. Most importantly, it should make the reader ask a question. So to that, I would just say that, yes, you do want to pull in the reader with your opening line, or hook them in. Sometimes they're called opening hooks, or hook sentence with a hook on it. You do want it to have either an interesting location, something that's unique about that time period or era. It really depends on the style of book that you're writing. But anyway, so you can do an unusual circumstance, a character attribute, or a unique situation that they may find themselves in. Something different about the character that's different, but it doesn't want to make you raise a question in your mind as the reader. So it can be indirect or direct, as I've said, but the general idea is just to make the reader want to know more or to get an answer to what your opening line proposed. So we're going to go through a few more, and I'm hoping that will give you a better sense. Oh, good, this writing's big. Okay, so chapter 1, or the opening sentence for this book, which is Keeper by Kim Chance, says, "The dragon's hoard was as crowded as a Walmart on Black Friday." That is excellent imagery. You know exactly what a Walmart looks like on Black Friday. So that right there creates an image already in your reader's mind. So they might want to know why it is so crowded. They've already got a pretty good idea of how it looks as far as setting, just from that first sentence. So let's move on. Now, again, opening sentences do not have to go on and on and on. They can be very short, to the point. They can be as long as you want them to be. But just so you can see the different variances, I will read you a few more. This is Jenna Moressi's The Savior's Champion. So the first sentence is run. So that, again, makes you question, like, why? Why are they running? Who is running? What are they running from? What are they running towards? But run, that's, one word, run. So I'm sure most of you have probably heard this one in your head 1,000 times from the movies and whatnot. But this is Stephenie Meyer's Twilight. And it starts out, "I had never given much thought to how I would die, though I'd had reason enough in the last few months, but even if I had, I would not have imagined it like this." So again, it's setting it up. It's setting up the question in the reader's mind. Why is she thinking of death? Why is she imagining it, her way to die? Or why is this not the way she imagined? So again, it poses a question. We're going to do one from Stephen King. Stephen King is one of my all-time favorite authors, so I have to share one from him. This one, let's see. This one is from It. Okay, writing is real small on this one. There we go. "The terror, which would not end for another 28 years, if it ever did end, began, so far as I can tell, with a boat made of a sheet of newspaper floating down a gutter swollen with rain." So again, imagery, that one totally sets up for the rest of the story. It gives you, okay, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I thought all these books were just going to, tumble one right after the other and make a big kaboom. But it didn't. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so here is another. This one is from one of my favorite childhood books. This is The Thief of Always, the very first line. And it says, "The great gray beast February had eaten Harvey Swick alive." I love that opening line. Absolutely adore it. Here is a longer opening line, and this is a classic. This is the Jane Austen Pride and Prejudice. So this one is a little bit longer, a little more lengthy of a first sentence opening line. And it is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife. So right there, you really get the idea of who this character is, because it's almost like a sarcasm. I just love these opening lines, guys. There are so many good opening lines. I suggest, if you want to get a better feel of what makes a good opening line, if you don't want to do the research on the computer, if you like or brick and mortar shops to go for your books, try out a Barnes & Noble and just kind of scan the shelves, take out some books, read the first lines. You'll know if it's a good opening line or not, because it'll make you think. It will make you want to read the following sentence. So I suggest you try that out. Let's see here. This one is, okay, this is a LaHaye book. So words are very small on this one. Okay, so the first one on this is, in one cataclysmic instant, millions of people all over the world disappeared. So that poses the question, you know, what was this cataclysmic event? Why did millions of people disappear? Where did they go? What happened to them? So again, these opening lines almost always, not always, but almost always, make the reader question. So this is I Was Here. This book is by Gail Forman, and we'll read the first opening line of it. The day after Meg died, I received a letter. So, this is a book about Meg's suicide, but anyway, that's beside the point. But it makes you wonder, who is Meg? Why did she die? And what is the letter's significance? Here's another one, Stephen King, The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. First line. The world had teeth, and it could bite you with them any time that it wanted. I love Stephen King. That one always really gets me. It's so good. But anywho, I think you guys kind of get the idea of what makes a good opening line. To summarize, you really want to do either a question indirectly or directly. And it doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be, you know, really drawn out. It can be as short as, say, Jenna Moressi's was, Run. But anyway, so I would, if I were you, you know, it's not the end all be all, but you want to raise a question in the reader's mind. You want to hook them in with whatever style you choose to either, you know, go with your setting, if it's, you know, an original setting, or unusual location or time period, something that's unique about it, something they don't see or hear every day. Trying to think here if there's anything else. You just want to make sure that however you word it, that you're wording it in a way that's going to serve a purpose and that it's going to stay true to the story, either to the theme, the setting, the character, things like that. I hope that I made sense. It makes sense up here in my head. Sometimes I'm not so great at conveying it, but hopefully you got a better understanding with the examples that I provided. If not, I'm sorry, guys. Better luck next time. But anywho, what makes a good opening line, you know, is a little subjective because depending on what you like to read. But the overall census is that an opening line is good if it makes you want to read the second line, the next line, so forth and so on. It's what keeps you wanting to read. So anywho, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to. Hit that notification bell. It'll let you know the next time I upload. But that's all I got for you guys. Have a great day, and I will see you in the next video. All right, bye.